Hi, Sarah Swanell here. The purpose of this video is to walk you through how to complete Distress Tolerance Worksheet 8, Reality Acceptance Skills. This worksheet goes with all of the distress tolerance handouts which explain reality acceptance. This includes handouts from 10 to 15. Before starting on this worksheet, I wanted to highlight that the acceptance skills are a little bit different to the crisis survival skills, even though they're all in the same distress tolerance module. Although both the crisis survival skills and the reality acceptance skills are on the acceptance side of the dialectic in terms of acceptance and change, the crisis survival skills are more about short term pain relief, while the reality acceptance skills are more about long term suffering relief. Although both are essential, they just serve different purposes. One helps you to survive the wave, and the other helps you to stop struggling against the ocean, to provide a metaphor. The crisis survival skills include improve, tip, self soothe, distraction, and pros and cons. And they're designed for moments of intense emotional pain when you feel overwhelmed, you can't solve the problem right away, and you're probably at risk of making things worse, such as self harming, lashing out, or using substances. The crisis survival skills help you get through the moment without making it worse. They're short term, in the moment strategies to reduce distress so you can regain control. On the other hand, the reality acceptance skills, which include radical acceptance, turning the mind, willingness, half smiling, willing hands, and mindfulness of current thoughts, are about long term emotional resilience. Although they can also be used in the short term, they can be more helpful in the long term by reducing suffering caused by fighting reality, accepting pain that can't be changed, and moving forward without getting stuck in bitterness, denial, or avoidance. The reality acceptance skills are not about feeling better right now, as are the crisis survival skills. The reality acceptance skills are about changing your relationship with reality over time. They support healing and not just coping. Worksheet 8 invites you to practice each of the 6 reality acceptance skills. If you haven't learned them all yet, you might like to hold off on completing this worksheet until you have learned all of them. As a reminder, the reality acceptance skills are radical acceptance, turning the mind, willingness, half smiling, willing hands, and mindfulness of current thoughts. To provide some clarity here, I've included the corresponding handouts that go with each of these reality acceptance skills. Before we go ahead and complete Worksheet 8, I'll provide a brief explanation of each of these reality acceptance skills. Firstly, radical acceptance. Radical acceptance means fully and completely accepting reality as it is, without judging it, fighting it, or trying to change it. It doesn't mean that you approve of the situation, but you stop fighting against the pain, which reduces suffering. Turning the mind. This skill involves choosing to accept reality when you find yourself resisting it. You notice resistance and then intentionally turn your mind towards acceptance. It's a repeated active decision. Every time the resistance comes up, you turn the mind again. Turning the mind is not actually accepting reality, it's just turning towards the direction of accepting reality. Willingness. Willingness is doing what is needed in each situation as it is, responding with openness and flexibility. Willingness contrasts with willfulness, and that's where you resist, refuse, or try to control. Willingness means cooperating with reality rather than opposing it or fighting it. Half smiling. Half smiling involves gently raising the corners of your mouth into a slight smile. This subtle facial expression can shift your internal state, helping communicate acceptance to your brain and your body, even when things are hard. Willing hands. Willing hands is a posture based skill where you place your hands open and relaxed, palms up. It signals openness and a non defensive stance, often used in conjunction with half smiling or mindfulness practices to foster acceptance and decrease resistance. And lastly, mindfulness of current thoughts. This skill helps you observe your thoughts just as thoughts, not facts, commands, or threats. You just watch them come and go, describe them without judgment, and avoid getting caught up in them. The skill helps you to build distance from distressing or sticky thinking. So let's work through the worksheet together. Worksheet 8, as you can see here, invites you to plan ahead by choosing 2 reality acceptance skills to practice during 1 or 2 stressful situations. The idea is to decide in advance which skills you're going to use so that when a challenging moment arises, which it usually does, you're ready to apply the skills. You can choose to practice both of the skills in the same situation, or you can use one skill for each of the 2 different situations. Let's say that we're deciding to practice radical acceptance and willing hands. So we'll check off those 2 skills. The next step is to describe the stressful situation that arose and also how we practiced the first skill, which was radical acceptance. Let's say that my stressful situation was that I slept in and was late for work. And now I have to describe how I practiced radical acceptance. To help work through this particular skill, I would encourage you to refer to handout 11B, which is a fantastic handout that outlines how to practice radical acceptance step by step. In this situation, I'm going to jot down that I first realized I was fighting reality. And then I was telling myself that it shouldn't have happened, so I was fighting reality, that I shouldn't have slept in. Then I thought about the causes of sleeping in, which was that I'd stayed up the night before. I then practiced accepting with my whole self by lying on my bed and breathing in acceptance. Then I jumped up and got ready as quickly as I could in response to accepting that the reality was that I slept in. I then coped ahead in my mind with how I would explain my lateness to my boss. I then allowed the disappointment in my sleeping in to arise within myself. And I acknowledged that I could still have a good day despite the setback. So here I've filled in this section where I've described the situation and also how I practiced the skill. And how I practiced the skill in this section is directly related to the steps of 11B handout. The key features here are that I first realized I was fighting reality and I was telling myself it shouldn't have happened. Then I was able to think about the causes for why things happened. I practice accepting with my whole body, not just with my mind. I got ready as quickly as I could, which is me behaviorally acknowledging the reality that I'd slept in. Coping ahead in my mind, allowing myself to feel the emotions that come up when it's a reality that we don't want to accept or that we wish wouldn't have happened. But also acknowledging that even when challenging things happen, we can still have a good day and experience joy. So, the next step after describing the situation and how I practiced the skill, I then need to rate how effective it was in helping me cope with the situation in terms of how it helped me from doing something to make the situation worse in this moment. So the scale here is from 1 to 5, where 1 is I couldn't stand the situation even for 1 minute. 3 is I was able to cope somewhat, at least for a little while. It helped somewhat. And 5, I could use the skills, tolerated distress, and resisted problem urges, with 2 and 4 obviously falling in between 1 and 3 and 3 and 5. I'm going to select a 4 here. Next, I rate whether the skill helped me cope with uncomfortable emotions or urges or avoid conflict of any kind. I'm going to select yes here. And then in this next section, I'm going to explain why I selected yes. And I've popped in here that the skill helped me to reduce self-criticism. So now we've completed skill number 1, radical acceptance. And the next step is to go forward and complete willing hands. So scrolling down to skill 2, and we describe the situation here. So I'll do this very briefly, and we'll say that my second situation was that my car wouldn't start. And again, we jot down how we practiced that particular skill. And remember, the skill was willing hands. And I've jotted in here that I practiced the skill by sitting in the car after I realized that my car wouldn't start and placed my hands in my lap, unclenched, turned them outward with palms up and fingers relaxed. Next, I rate how effective the skill was in helping me to tolerate the distress of my car not starting, and I'm going to rate that as a 4. Again, I'm going to select yes, that the skill did help me to cope with uncomfortable emotions or urges. And then we need to describe in the last section how it actually helped or how it didn't help. And I've jotted down here that the skill helped me by coping with feelings of anger and also being able to remind myself that things don't always go as planned or as you hope, but that life is still worth living despite this. So now we've come to the end of completing Distress Tolerance Worksheet 8, Reality Acceptance Skills. Although this worksheet only asks you to practice 2 reality acceptance skills, it is really important that you practice all of the skills and over practice them until they become habitual. So that's the end of this worksheet. Thanks very much for watching, and don't stop practicing your DBT skills to build your life worth living.